Redstone clocks. There's a lot of them, all with different uses and all incredibly useful, as they are the basics of any redstone system. So starting off with the more simple one, redstone repeaters. This is actually one of the easiest ones to make. It's the first one I ever learned, and it's really cheap. All you need is 2 repeaters facing away to each other and then some redstone. Now to turn it on is a bit weird, but you had to place down a chart. You have to power this redstone does and quickly turn it off. Now I wasn't fast enough there, so I'm gonna just do this. And it's pretty fast. It's one of the fastest. It's not the fastest. I'm gonna show you that one later on. But the problem I have with this one is that to turn it off, there's no off switch, so you had to break it. This one is actually the same thing. It's much easier to see because it's in a circle, so it's one big loop. Pretty much all clocks are one big loop. This one is a pretty obvious loop, and it's the same thing as this one where you have to be quick. Now obviously it's slower because it has double the repeaters, and you can make it slower by adding more repeaters. But this one you also have to break to stop. Now these two are the only ones that are like this. Everything else you could just turn on and off. First one you could turn on and off. It's the same thing as the first one where you have this repeater clock, the redstone torch here. Now you have a repeater going away from that torch and then a repeater going into this block. And what's happening here is when this turns on, when this torch is on, this turns this on, which powers this block on. When you have a power block and some torches on it, it actually turns off the redstone torch. So then this turns off and this whole thing turns off. Now there's no more power, this turns back on. It's one big loop like everything else you will see. It is a bit slower than the first one though. Even though it looks the same, it's not. We got comparator clocks. Now these two are actually the same thing. It's just a comparator on subtraction mode with redstone looping back into it. Now this one is actually subtracting signal strength from this one, which turns off this this whole clock. Obviously you can slow it down by adding repeaters. I didn't have it on subtraction mode, but you can slow it down by having repeaters. This one is actually the same speed as the first one, but it is more expensive, but at least you could turn it off. Now this one I forgot to add this earlier, but it's a redstone torch clock. It's just 2 redstones turning on and off. Now this one, when this one's on, this one turns off. And you can actually just use one clock which powers these two or these up here. But the problem with that is it turns off. Now this is useful when you want things to like turn off every once in a while. Now on bedrock it just turns off, it stays off. But on Java edition, I was wrong, it doesn't turn back on. But what I found interesting is that it does work a bit differently. When this one burns out, this one turns on. That's weird. A server clock. Now it's just 2 clocks facing into each other. And it's actually pretty fast as well, but it's not the fastest that it could be. Because piston works differently on Java edition. When you use a piston to push this observer into it, it actually goes faster for some reason. Now I don't know why, but it just goes faster. It doesn't go twice as fast because I tested it out over here, but it does go significantly faster. Now all of these clocks are really fast and they're really helpful when you have to dispense something, but slow clocks are actually more useful. This one is a hopper clock, an etho hopper clock, and it's slower. You can make it as slow as you want. I'm gonna take all these out. It is a bit more expensive than everything else over there, but it's just 2 hoppers facing each other with comparators out, detecting if these hoppers have items or not. Now some people actually find this weird, but you put a block here and a redstone over here. Now the reason you do this is because when you have items like comparators and repeaters, they actually can power through blocks. So that's essentially what's happening here. I didn't reset this from last time I did this, but you can have 2 redstone here if you have enough blocks. If you're only using 1 block, obviously it's not going to be strong enough to power both blocks. So it is quite helpful to have a block here. And it's going really fast. Now you also have to have 2 sticky pistons pushing this block. You can have one if you're only using 1 block in here, but if you have multiple blocks, but it's pretty much the same as when you have one block, because it's only moving one block. That's why you need 2 sticky pistons when you have more than one block. If you just have one block, just stick to one, but it's more helpful to have 2, because the point of this is to be slow and precise. This one is actually stackable. It's on top of each other. Instead of having the redstone over here, it's on top of this block, which does mean you can have multiple in a row. Now this one is a minecart clock. Now obviously I'm on it, so it's going faster, which is always activating this, what is this called, detector rail. It's always, the detector rail is always on if it's going too fast, so you do want it slow. You can also fix this by making the track longer. Obviously I got it at 3x3 just for simplicity's sake. It is a bit expensive because of all the iron, but it's really easy to make. Now this one is a bit of a weird one. It's not consistent, which is why it's good, because it's random. Okay, he already showed it to me. I was going to show you with some seeds, but he already showed it. A lot of these actually have Comparator. Now if you don't understand how comparators work, click this video.